Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, where we uncover the hidden treasures of American coins and explore the incredible stories they carry. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into a coin that you may have handled many times without realizing its potential, the United States Jefferson Nickel from the year 1974. This small 5-cent piece is part of everyday American life, but some examples of this coin can be worth far more than just a nickel. By the end of this video, I'll reveal the shocking value that the rarest examples of the 1974 Jefferson Nickel have reached, and believe me, you won't want to miss it. The Jefferson Nickel has a long and fascinating history in U.S. coinage. First introduced in 1938, it replaced the Buffalo nickel and has since become one of the most enduring coins in circulation. The design was chosen through a public competition, and the winning entry came from sculptor Felix Schlag. His work was elegant yet practical, featuring a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse side and Jefferson's home, Monticello, on the reverse. These images became instantly recognizable and have remained a cornerstone of U.S. coinage for decades. By 1974, the Jefferson Nickel had already been in production for 36 years. America at that time was experiencing political changes, economic shifts, and social challenges, yet through all of this, the familiar nickel remained a constant presence in daily commerce. Millions of these coins were produced by the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia and Denver, and collectors also received specially struck proof nickels from the San Francisco Mint. Although it was common and plentiful in circulation, certain conditions and rare minting varieties from this year have made the 1974 Jefferson Nickel a hidden gem in the world of coin collecting. Now let's take a closer look at the design. On the front of the coin is the left-facing portrait of President Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence and the third President of the United States. His portrait is strong and dignified, reflecting both his role in shaping the nation and his lasting legacy. Around his portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," along with the date 1974. On the reverse side is Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate, beautifully detailed with its neoclassical architecture. Above it is the word Monticello, and around the rim are the inscriptions, E pluribus unum, United States of America, and 5 cents. It is a simple design, but one that has endured because of its balance, clarity, and symbolism of Jefferson's vision for the country. Collectors find the 1974 Jefferson Nickel interesting for several reasons. First, as with all coins, condition matters enormously. A coin that circulated heavily, showing scratches, discoloration, and wear, will likely be worth only face value. However, coins that were never used and instead preserved in pristine, mint state condition can command much higher prices. When professionally graded and placed in protective holders, these high-grade nickels attract serious attention from collectors and investors, but condition isn't the only factor. Errors and varieties are also part of what makes the 1974 Jefferson Nickel so appealing. During the minting process, small mistakes sometimes occur, like double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or coins struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. These errors are rare, and because they are not intentionally created, each one is essentially unique. For collectors, this uniqueness adds tremendous value. Imagine holding a coin that has a minting error that no other coin in the world has. That's the thrill of the hunt. The 1974 nickels also come in different versions depending on the mint. Philadelphia coins were struck without a mint mark, Denver coins carry the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins with the S mint mark. Proof coins are struck with specially polished dies and planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and razor-sharp details. These proof nickels are usually kept by collectors and are much rarer in circulation. Another layer of interest is the historical context of the coin. By the mid-1970s, the United States was dealing with economic inflation, rising oil prices, and social changes. Coins like the 1974 nickel were part of everyday life in an America that was facing transitions on many levels. Yet even in those challenging times, the humble nickel was a piece of stability, used by millions of Americans every day, passing from hand to hand in grocery stores, gas stations, and diners. Today, that same coin can serve as a time capsule, a reminder of what life was like in that era. For modern collectors, Jefferson Nickels are also an excellent starting point. They are affordable, widely available, and packed with historical value. Many collectors began their journeys by searching through pocket change for older nickels, gradually learning about the different years, mint marks, and varieties. The 1974 nickel, while seemingly ordinary, can be one of the most exciting finds if it turns out to be a high-grade or error coin. Now we arrive at the most thrilling part of today's video, the value reveal. While most 1974 Jefferson nickels you come across in circulation will only be worth 5 cents, the rarest examples in absolutely flawless condition, combined with exceptional rarity or error features, have stunned collectors with their market prices. In fact, one of the most extraordinary 1974 Jefferson nickels ever discovered reached a jaw-dropping auction value of $46,000. Yes, you heard that right, $46,000 for a nickel that most people would overlook as pocket change. It goes to show that treasure can be hiding in plain sight. That coin you ignore or toss into a jar could be worth thousands if it has the right combination of rarity, condition, and uniqueness. So the next time you get a Jefferson nickel, especially one from the 1970s, don't just spend it without taking a closer look. Examine the details, check for mint marks, and consider its condition. You never know when you might be holding a true collector's prize. Today we are about to take an incredible journey into the history of one of America's most fascinating small coins, the Jefferson nickel from the year 1943. At first glance, this is just a 5-cent coin, the kind you might think isn't worth more than the change you drop into a vending machine. But don't be fooled, this coin carries a powerful story tied to World War II, and in the world of collectors, it can be worth far more than you might ever imagine. Stick with me until the end, because I'm going to reveal the shocking value the rarest examples of this coin have sold for, and trust me, it will leave you amazed. Let's rewind back to the early 1940s. The United States was fully engaged in World War II, and every aspect of daily life was influenced by the war effort. Resources like copper and nickel were urgently needed for military production to build ammunition, weapons, and machinery. Since the Jefferson nickel had been made with a blend of copper and nickel since 1938, the U.S. Mint faced a problem: how to keep producing coins for everyday commerce while conserving valuable metals for the war. The solution came in 1942 and carried on through 1945, the famous wartime silver nickels. Instead of the usual copper-nickel composition, the mint used an alloy of silver, manganese, and copper. That means that the Jefferson nickel of 1943 is not made of nickel at all, but instead contains 35% silver. This makes it not just an ordinary coin, but a piece of American history struck during a time of sacrifice and unity. Every one of these coins is a reminder of the nation's determination to support victory in the war. Now, let's talk about the design, because the Jefferson nickel is both iconic and symbolic. On the obverse side is the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, created by sculptor Felix Schlag. Jefferson's strong features and thoughtful gaze reflect his role as a founding father, the author of the Declaration of Independence, and the third President of the United States. Surrounding the portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," along with the year 1943. The reverse side shows Monticello, Jefferson's elegant Virginia home. The neoclassical design, with its grand dome and columns, is beautifully represented on the coin. Above it is the word Monticello, with E pluribus unum above, and circling around the bottom are the words United States of America and 5 cents. It's a design that has endured for decades, but during the wartime years, one small change makes these coins stand out. To mark them as different, the U.S. Mint placed large mint marks above Monticello on the reverse side, Philadelphia with a bold P, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. This was the first time in U.S. coinage history that the Philadelphia Mint used a mint mark, making these coins even more distinctive. Collectors love the 1943 Jefferson nickel for several reasons. First, it contains silver, so even in worn condition, it has intrinsic metal value. But beyond that, it represents a key moment in American history, where even the smallest coin in circulation was part of the national war effort. The fact that these coins circulated heavily during the 1940s means that finding one in high-grade, pristine condition is rare. Most of them show scratches, wear, or discoloration from decades of use, but here's where it gets exciting. If you happen to come across a 1943 Jefferson nickel in uncirculated condition, preserved with full details and a beautiful shine, its value skyrockets. Coins graded by professional services as MS-67 or MS-68 are exceptionally rare. Add in any unusual minting errors, such as double dies, off-center strikes, or planchet mistakes, and you're talking about a coin that collectors will fight over at auctions. Error coins from this wartime series are especially treasured because they combine the history of the period with the uniqueness of the mistake, making them one-of-a-kind pieces. Another interesting fact about the 1943 nickel is how many people don't even realize they have one in their collections. Because it looks similar to other Jefferson nickels, it often goes unnoticed in jars of change or inherited coin collections. The telltale signs are the year 1943 and that large mint mark above Monticello. If you see those details, you're holding a wartime silver nickel, and possibly something worth a fortune. The thrill of coin collecting comes from this exact possibility, that what looks ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. Imagine checking a handful of old nickels and suddenly realizing one of them isn't just worth 5 cents, but enough to change your financial future. That's the magic of coins like the 1943 Jefferson nickel, and now, the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1943 nickels are worth only a few dollars in circulated condition, the rarest examples in absolutely flawless, uncirculated condition, or those with unique and dramatic errors, have stunned the coin collecting world. In fact, one of the most remarkable 1943 Jefferson nickels ever sold reached an unbelievable auction price of $115,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $115,000 for a 5-cent coin struck during World War II. That's the kind of value that turns heads and shows why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, but sometimes a treasure hunt with life-changing rewards. So the next time you come across an old nickel, especially one from the early 1940s, don't dismiss it as ordinary pocket change. Take a closer look. That little wartime coin with Jefferson's portrait and Monticello on the back could be a small but powerful piece of American history, and maybe even your ticket to a hidden fortune. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that almost every American has seen or used at some point in time, the Jefferson nickel from the year 1964. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a nickel, right? But don't let its simple face value fool you. The 1964 Jefferson nickel has stories to tell, mysteries to uncover, and for the rarest examples, a value so high that it will absolutely shock you when we reach the end of this video. The Jefferson Nickel series began back in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel. Sculptor Felix Schlag created the design that would live on coins for decades, Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the front and Monticello, his home in Virginia, on the reverse. By 1964, this design had already been in circulation for 26 years, and the coin had become a familiar part of American pockets, purses, and piggy banks. But 1964 was no ordinary year in U.S. history, or in U.S. coinage. The early 1960s saw a massive coin shortage across America. Millions of Americans were saving coins, hoarding silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars because of rising silver prices. This shortage created chaos in daily commerce. To keep up with demand, the U.S. Mint produced an enormous number of coins in 1964, including the Jefferson Nickel. In fact, this year marks one of the highest mintage years for the series. Both the Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of them, trying to satisfy the demand of a nation desperate for coins. Now let's take a moment to really appreciate the design. On the obverse side, Jefferson's left-facing portrait appears strong and dignified, framed by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," with the year 1964 tucked in. The lines of Jefferson's face and hair, when well struck and preserved, are stunning in their detail. On the reverse is Monticello, Jefferson's elegant neoclassical estate. The pillars, dome, and steps are engraved with care, and beneath it proudly sits the word Monticello. Circling around are E pluribus unum, United States of America, and 5 cents. For everyday people in the 1960s, this was just pocket change. For us today, though, it's a time capsule of history. Think about it, the coin you hold from 1964 was struck during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, as America wrestled with change, growth, and new challenges. It was the same year the Beatles invaded America with their music, and President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. So, in a way, holding a 1964 nickel means holding a piece of that era. Collectors, however, see something even more special. You see, not all 1964 Jefferson Nickels are created equal. Because of the coin shortage, the mint focused on quantity over quality. This means many 1964 nickels show weak strikes, worn dies, and lack of detail. High-quality examples with sharp strikes, beautiful luster, and no signs of wear are extremely hard to come by. Coins graded at the very highest levels, such as MS-66 or MS-67, are scarce and highly desirable, and then there are the varieties and errors. Collectors are always hunting for double die obverse or reverses, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes. Some 1964 nickels even show dramatic full steps on Monticello, a feature where all the lines of the steps are perfectly struck and visible. These full steps nickels are the crown jewels of the series, and they command incredible premiums at auction. The rarity of finding such a coin among millions of ordinary strikes is what drives collectors to keep searching. But we can't forget the proof coins either. While the mint officially stopped proof production during the coin shortage, there were special strike coins known as SMS or special mint sets produced in 1964. These coins have a satin-like finish and sharp details, and they are incredibly rare. A 1964 special strike Jefferson Nickel is one of the most elusive finds in all of modern U.S. coinage. What's exciting is that you never truly know what you might have. A 1964 nickel sitting quietly in an old coin jar could turn out to be one of these rare varieties or a nearly flawless high-grade example. That thrill of discovery is what makes coin collecting so addictive. Every coin has potential, and every coin tells a story. Most 1964 nickels you'll come across are worth only face value, maybe a small premium if in decent condition. But when you find one that combines rarity, condition, and uniqueness, the value skyrockets. That's why collectors carefully study each detail: the mint mark, the strike, the steps on Monticello, and the surfaces of the coin. And now we've reached the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While the majority of 1964 Jefferson nickels are common, the rarest examples in spectacular condition, especially those with full steps or unique strike qualities, have sold for breathtaking amounts at auction. One of the most extraordinary 1964 Jefferson nickels ever discovered shocked the coin collecting world when it reached an incredible price of $100,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $100,000 for a nickel that most people would spend without a second thought. That's the magic of coin collecting. The possibility that the simplest coin, hiding in plain sight, could actually be worth a fortune. So, next time you come across a 1964 Jefferson nickel, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Look closely. Study the details. Because you might just be holding a piece of American history that could change your life. Today we're going to explore a coin that most people have probably seen hundreds of times without giving it a second thought, the Jefferson Nickel from the year 1979. At face value, it's just 5 cents. But in the world of coin collecting, this little coin can become so much more. Stick with me all the way to the end of this video, because I'm going to reveal the shocking price that the rarest examples of this coin have reached, and believe me, it's a number that will leave you stunned. The Jefferson Nickel has been a staple of American currency since 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin was meant to honor Thomas Jefferson, one of America's founding fathers, author of the Declaration of Independence, and the nation's third president. Over the years, the Jefferson Nickel became a familiar piece of pocket change, always there in the background of American life. By the year 1979, the coin had already been circulating for more than 4 decades. So what was happening in 1979? It was a fascinating year in U.S. history. The country was experiencing an energy crisis, inflation was on the rise, and Americans were adjusting to a changing world. Music, culture, and technology were all evolving rapidly. And while people stood in gas lines, listened to disco records, or watched new episodes of Three's Company on television, the Jefferson nickel quietly passed from hand to hand in stores, banks, and parking meters. Every single one of those nickels carried the history of the time with it. Now let's talk design, because the Jefferson nickel has one of the most recognizable looks in all of U.S. coinage. On the front of the coin, we see the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson. Schlag's design captures his serious expression and thoughtful character. The inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," frame his portrait, with the date 1979 placed to the right. On some coins from Denver, you'll notice the small D mint mark, while Philadelphia coins from that year carry no mint mark at all. Flip the coin over and you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate. The steps, columns, and dome of the house are engraved with careful attention to detail, making it one of the most elegant reverses in American coin design. The inscriptions, E pluribus unum, Monticello, United States of America, and 5 cents, complete the reverse. It's a design that combines strength, tradition, and timeless simplicity. At first glance, the 1979 Jefferson nickel may not seem like anything unusual. After all, the U.S. Mint produced millions of them at both Philadelphia and Denver. But here's where it gets interesting: not all nickels are created equal. While the majority are only worth their face value, a select few are so rare and so perfect in condition that their value skyrockets. Condition is everything in coin collecting. The 1979 Jefferson nickel that has been rattling around in someone's pocket or purse for decades is likely covered in scratches, dings, and discoloration. But examples that were never circulated, carefully preserved from the moment they were minted, can be breathtaking to behold. When submitted to professional grading services, nickels that receive grades of MS67 or higher are extremely scarce, and collectors are willing to pay enormous sums for them. Another factor that can send the value soaring is the presence of a minting error. Mistakes happen in the coining process: dies can double, planchets can shift, or coins can be struck off-center. Some nickels even show dramatic double die features where the date or inscriptions look doubled under magnification. Each error creates a one-of-a-kind piece, making it incredibly desirable to collectors. And when that error appears on a coin from a high mintage year like 1979, it stands out even more. Varieties add another layer of intrigue. Collectors search for repunched mint marks, die cracks, or unusual strike characteristics. One of the most sought-after details is the full steps on Monticello. Because of the way the coins were struck, the steps on the building often appear weak or blurry. But when a coin shows all the steps clearly and without interruption, it earns the designation of full steps. A 1979 Jefferson nickel with full steps in pristine condition is a true rarity, and auction prices for such coins have reached jaw-dropping levels. Beyond condition and errors, there's also the historical value. The 1979 Jefferson nickel represents a period when America was at a crossroads, grappling with economic struggles, technological changes, and cultural shifts. Every coin from that year is not just a piece of metal but also a witness to history. That's what makes collecting so special. When you hold a coin, you're holding a story, and now comes the moment we've been building toward: the value reveal. While most 1979 Jefferson nickels are worth only 5 cents, the rarest examples in perfect condition with sharp details and extraordinary features have astonished collectors at auctions. One of the most spectacular 1979 Jefferson nickels ever discovered sold for an incredible $58,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $58,000 for a single nickel. That's the kind of value that transforms an ordinary pocket coin into a life-changing treasure. It goes to show that sometimes, the coins we overlook can hold unimaginable worth. So the next time you see a 1979 nickel in your change, don't just pass it along. Look closely. Examine the details. Check the condition. Because you might be holding a coin that's not just a piece of the past, but a small fortune waiting to be discovered. Today, we are diving deep into a coin that at first glance might look simple, common, and ordinary. It's the Jefferson Nickel, minted in 1971, a 5-cent piece that countless people have carried in their pockets, jingled in their purses, or tossed into jars without thinking twice. But, as always, the world of numismatics teaches us never to judge a coin by its face value. Sometimes, the rarest and most extraordinary examples of a coin can be worth life-changing amounts of money, and the 1971 Jefferson Nickel is a shining example of that. To understand the true worth of this coin, we need to look back at the history of the Jefferson Nickel itself. Introduced in 1938, this coin replaced the beloved Buffalo nickel. Its design was created by Felix Schlag, who captured the thoughtful and dignified image of America's third president, Thomas Jefferson. Schlag's portrait of Jefferson has been struck on billions of coins over the decades, but each year brings its own mintage numbers, its own quirks, and in some cases, its own hidden rarities. Now let's set the scene in 1971. America was undergoing a period of dramatic change. The Vietnam War was ongoing, social movements were reshaping the country, and technology was racing ahead. The Apollo missions had just placed humans on the moon, proving that the United States could achieve the impossible. In this era of transformation, the U.S. Mint continued its steady production of the coins people used every single day, including the humble 5-cent piece. The Jefferson Nickel of 1971, like all others, features Jefferson's profile on the obverse. His portrait faces left, with the words, "In God We Trust," curving around the left side, while the word "Liberty" and the date, 1971, appear on the right, often accompanied by a small mint mark indicating where the coin was made. The reverse features Jefferson's magnificent Monticello, with its neoclassical dome and elegant columns, a tribute to Jefferson's genius as an architect as well as a statesman. Surrounding the building are the inscriptions, E Pluribus Unum, Monticello, United States of America, and 5 cents. Millions of these coins were struck in 1971 at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. To the average person at the time, these nickels were nothing more than everyday change. But to today's collectors, the story is very different. What makes some 1971 Jefferson Nickels so valuable? The first factor is condition. A coin that has circulated through thousands of hands, showing wear, scratches, and dullness, will never command a high price. But a coin that was never released into circulation, carefully preserved in mint state condition, with sharp detail, blazing luster, and no distracting marks, can be a showstopper at auction. Grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins on a scale from 1 to 70, and a Jefferson Nickel from 1971 graded at the very top of that scale is an absolute rarity. Another factor that excites collectors is the full steps designation. Monticello's steps are notoriously difficult to strike clearly, and on most Jefferson Nickels, they appear soft or blended together. But when a coin from 1971 displays every single step crisply and without interruption, it earns the full steps label, instantly making it far scarcer and more desirable. Errors and varieties also add intrigue to the 1971 Jefferson Nickel. Minting mistakes such as double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or repunched mint marks can transform a normal coin into a unique piece worth hundreds or even thousands of times its face value. For example, collectors eagerly seek out nickels with doubled inscriptions or misaligned strikes that give the coin a dramatic, eye-catching look. The year 1971 was also significant because the mint was under pressure to produce coins efficiently in the midst of a growing economy and expanding population. That pressure sometimes led to quality control issues, which in turn gave us rare error coins. These mistakes that once slipped unnoticed through the presses are now some of the most coveted finds in the hobby. Beyond condition and errors, there's the intangible factor of history. Every 1971 Jefferson Nickel is a little time capsule, carrying with it the spirit of a year filled with change, challenges, and triumphs. Holding one in your hand connects you not only to the story of Jefferson and his Monticello but also to the everyday lives of Americans who use these coins for groceries, gas, and countless daily purchases. More than 50 years ago. How much can a 1971 Jefferson Nickel really be worth? For the vast majority, the value is just 5 cents. You could spend it on a piece of candy or drop it into a coin machine, and that would be the end of its journey. But in the extraordinary world of rare coins, the story doesn't stop there. The most pristine, perfectly struck examples, especially those displaying full steps and graded at the highest levels, have left collectors astonished at auction, and now it's time for the big reveal. Among the rarest known examples, a 1971 Jefferson Nickel has reached an unbelievable value of $52,600, yes, you heard that right. A coin that most people would overlook as pocket change has crossed into the territory of luxury cars, down payments on homes, or even a year's salary for some. That's the magic of numismatics, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. So the next time you come across a 1971 Jefferson Nickel, don't dismiss it as just another old coin. Take a closer look, study the details, and you might just discover a hidden treasure waiting to be recognized. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on this journey into the fascinating world of the 1971 Jefferson Nickel. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss out on the rare coin discoveries we bring to you. Until next time, happy hunting, keep searching your change, and remember, sometimes even the smallest coin can hold a story worth more than gold.